Hey folks, David Stewart here. Let's talk a little bit about nostalgia, how to get over it and embrace the glorious future. I wrote a book a while back called Afterglow Generation Y. This is about my generation, those of us born roughly in the 1980s, and our affliction, our clinical affliction with nostalgia, as well as our stunted adulthood, Peter Pan syndrome. All of that stuff is in this book. It's a collection of literary stories, so it is my literary fiction book, I suppose. You can check it out. It'll actually be free this week starting on Sunday. Hobbiton birthday, I didn't get too on top of it, so my birthday won't have free stuff. But starting on Sunday, the 15th of June, you can get this for free on Amazon. I'll link it down below. So we have to be able to get past nostalgia and think about the future. I made a video this week that was 10 things that actually sucked about the 90s. The 90s were great. There was a lot of great things that happened in the 90s, but there were things that were not great about it as well. There were inconveniences that we've improved since then, things that were just not ideal. Somebody commented that most people would give anything to trade and go back to the 90s. We don't get to make that trade. We don't get to go back to the 90s, and we can't recover the past. The past is a foreign country. But we can use nostalgia in an appropriate way to guide us towards a good future, to improve what we have here and to make the future better, as well as to make good decisions in the present. And I'll give you a couple examples of what I mean. So we have nostalgia for lots of things for many different reasons. We have emotional attachments to different kinds of media. Some of those may be unhealthy, some of those may be healthy, some of those may be properly contextualized. When we actually contextualize our good feelings about something from the past, I think they could be very useful to guide us towards finding new things that we might like and enjoy. A really good example for me is the game GoldenEye. I've talked about this before, the GoldenEye effect. GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64 is, in my opinion, one of the most overrated games of all time. I don't think it's a very good shooter, and I don't even think it's a very good multiplayer shooter, abstracted from the context in which we actually played it, because the truth is we had a ton of fun playing GoldenEye when it was current. And GoldenEye, because of the 4-player deathmatch on the Nintendo 64 with a TV, 4 controllers, that facilitated a lot of really good times. That facilitated a lot of great memories for people. And when I realized GoldenEye was actually not a very good game was probably 10 or 12 years maybe after it came out. I went back and played it again, maybe 2008, 2009. And it was nauseating. It was a really not a good experience. And since playing that game, I had played so many other shooters. And even when it had come out back in 1997, I didn't think it was a very exciting shooter. And that's because I came from the PC area as far as those sorts of games go. I had been playing Doom, Dark Forces, Quake. I had been playing all of these Duke Nukem, all of these PC shooters, which were leagues better than GoldenEye was. GoldenEye is still a pretty okay game. It's not a terrible game. I don't think it ran very well on the Nintendo 64, but it did facilitate those good times. And so what we have to think about is, why did we enjoy playing it so much? It may have been novel. I knew for most of my friends who really loved the game, they had never played a 3D shooter before. They'd never been a PC gamer. So it was a new novel experience, and so that brought a lot of joy, and that's great. That means what we can do is we can seek other novel experiences, other things that are new and interesting to us, and they will bring us joy because of their novelty. They don't have to be the best in a category. You don't have to worry about, well, what's the best VR game? If you've never played VR before, every VR game you play is going to be a pretty novel experience, and chances are you're going to enjoy a lot of them. So just take a plunge and try something new, or try a new type of game. It doesn't have to be a shooter or something like that. You can try a new type of game that you haven't played before, and you don't have to worry about like what's the best one. Just play what interests you, and you may find that that novel experience will give you a lot of joy. And it doesn't have to be games either. You could take up golf. Golf may be a really fun experience if you've never played it before, because it's novel. There's a skill to it. You don't have to worry about you being good at golf or having the best golf course or the best clubs, because it's all new to you. It'll just be a joyful and fun experience of growth and enjoyment of learning the skills that you need to play the game. And that's true for pretty much anything that you would want to do. So you focus on, why was that so exciting? Is it was something new and interesting, and it showed me these things I hadn't seen before, and you find other new novel experiences experiences that are going to hopefully give you a similar kind of joy. So you really want to focus on how it made you feel, not what it did. Because if you're continually searching for things that do the same thing, you're going to feel very disappointed when they don't make you feel the same way that that thing felt. Novelty is a big part of that. The other thing about the 4-player deathmatch, which is what I have the most nostalgia for with a game like GoldenEye, is that it facilitated you and a bunch of friends having fun together. And because I grew up in Fresno, California, where it was very hot most of the year, so pretty much from like late April through October, it was hot outside in the afternoon. It was hot enough that it was not very fun to go outside and play. You would be completely drenched in sweat and dehydrated very quickly. And back then in the 1990s, it's not like we carried a lot of water bottles around. You had public water fountains, and that was pretty much your source of hydration that you had back then. And it would be 100 degrees. So 100, sometimes more, 105, 110, I saw many times. So we had a lot of scorching heat outside. And being able to go inside from that heat into the air conditioning. And that's actually one of the, I think this is what opens up this book, is a description of basically coming in from the hot outside in Central California into a cold, dark, air-conditioned house. The curtains are drawn. There's no adult because the adults kind of weren't around for me and a lot of my friends. And the afternoon is just kind of yours because there's nothing on the agenda. There's a bit of nostalgia there, right? I'll talk about the deathmatch and then I'll come back to that description. But, you and your 4 friends could come in. It was air conditioned. It was really pleasant. You could have a great time playing that game. You could order a pizza. Chances are you and your friends could put together your pocket change and come up with enough money to have a pizza delivered. $12 or $14, and you get a large pizza. You could share that pizza, and you can spend that whole night playing that game and still have time to go out and do something else, go to the movies. Movies during the week were still pretty cheap, $5, $7 maybe, right? We could figure out how to get that kind of money together even as teenagers. So those great experiences were facilitated by that game mode. So that means, can you have other great experiences? You could play Dungeons and Dragons and probably have a really good experience with adult friends inside in the air conditioning. You could play poker with your adult friends and have a really good time inside in air conditioning, eating pizza and having whatever you want to drink. So you can have these camaraderie experiences as an adult. You just have to find a thing that helps facilitate those for you, right? It can be a tabletop game. It could be poker. It could be even watching a football game or something, right? There's lots of things that do that. Or it can be something outdoors, right? If you don't care about the air conditioned part, you could go hunting. You could go trap shooting with your friends. So that can inform you to, what do I actually want? I want those great moments of camaraderie, having fun with my friends. GoldenEye is what facilitated that. Buying GoldenEye on the newest system and hoping that that's going to make me feel the same way that I felt back then. It's not going to happen. It'll make you remember how you felt, and that's good too, but it's not going to make you feel the same way. So you have to seek out new experiences for that. Now, going back to like the afternoon was yours, right? We didn't always have a ton going on back in the 1990s. So you have nostalgia for being able to come home and nobody's telling you what to do because you spent the previous 8 hours being told what to do, sitting, being bored, having to focus on things you didn't care about, having to maybe talk to people you didn't really want to talk to because you were stuck in public school, to finally being able to just be by yourself and to play a game and have fun for 30 minutes or an hour before mom or dad got home. And so the nostalgia, is it super nostalgic? Is it the game? Is it the fact that you got to go home and play Final Fantasy IX or something on your PlayStation? That's part of it. Those games were good, and it's good to remember how good they are and to bring those to the next generation. Be like, hey, this game was great. I bet you'd really enjoy it. I was just thinking, like, my son has been playing KOTOR, been playing Knights of the Old Republic, and he likes Star Wars, and so he really liked this game because, like, I could be a Sith. I can do evil stuff. I can I want to be a Sith in this one because I told him you could be good or evil. I'm like, okay, dude, have fun role playing that. That's a really joyful experience. And it doesn't need slick new graphics. It's a novel and cool experience for him. So yeah, we can bring those things forward to the next generation, and that's great. But you can also think about, why were we so excited to go into, well, it was hot outside, we're walking home. We were bored, right? We were bored, and we were in a place where we were locked down and forced to pay attention to things we didn't care about. So once we remove that problem of like public school, all of a sudden that going home alone to play a video game is not quite as interesting. We have nostalgia for it because of the context of where it is. All of a sudden that could be something kind of boring. You get home and like the house is empty and you feel lonely because you haven't been around people all day, like interacting with them maybe, right? Maybe you've been sitting in a cubicle doing work by yourself. Coming home to an empty house is depressing. What you need to do is go to the bar, right? So those sorts of things I think are worth thinking about as far as getting past nostalgia and putting all your nostalgic feelings into the proper context so they can guide your decisions now, and you don't lose any of the warmth of your childhood by understanding Saturday morning was great. I loved watching Star Wars on Saturday morning because Monday through Friday, 100% of my time was occupied with things I didn't like. When you fix your life so that most of your week is not occupied with things you don't like, the joy of getting up on a Saturday morning and being able to spend it eating cereal and watching Star Wars is somewhat diminished because the rest of your life is actually improved. But that doesn't mean it wasn't any less fun to watch Star Wars when you were a kid. You just need to understand why it was so fun. Is that it was like a little mini vacation. It was a break from the tedium of the Monday through Friday public school, after school activities, daycare slog that most of us had to go through in the 1990s. So we put it into that proper perspective, where if we want that feeling of relief, then it's probably because we're grinding too hard and we should fix something else about our lives. Can form us in a different direction. If we think about the big stuff, let's think about the big stuff. Okay, so I'm talking about the stuff that's you. And here's the thing: we don't want to get trapped into a feeling that either there's nothing you can do as an individual to improve your situation or to maximize your life, or there's only systemic things that affect you, and you're just a victim of circumstance. It's both, right? There are things that you can do. There are things that you can do to improve your situation, to maximize your life if you already have a great situation. And there are things which are bigger than you. And so those are two different levels. Let's talk about the things that are a little bit bigger than you, right? When we think about nostalgia for the past, I'll use housing as an example because I've talked about this many times. When you buy a house, you're not just buying a house. You're buying a bunch of different things. You're buying maybe a school district for your kid to go to, right? If you're going to send your kid to public school. Now, I homeschool my kids, so that's not as much of a factor, but it is still a factor because the school district that you're in creates the kids that are around. So there's something that's worth thinking about as well. But you are buying into a neighborhood full of people, and those people are, you're basically buying your neighbors. So to buy in a good neighborhood full of good neighbors who are like you, it costs a lot of money. This is why the argument of like, well, the baby boomers had these, 1,500 square foot starter homes. It's like, yes, the younger generations would love to buy a 1,500 square foot starter home, but there's two problems with that. First of all, it's $400,000 in an urban area where they might want to live. But more than that, if it's less than that, it's in a place that's so crime ridden that they aren't getting the lifestyle that they grew up with. So what's the lifestyle that we grew up with in the 1980s and the 1990s? Let's go 1990s and before, because it was even better in the 80s, which was I walked to school as an elementary school student. No one had any thought that something bad would happen to me on the way to school. And I walked home by myself to empty house many times, right? And I did that through high school. And I knew many other kids that did that, even younger than I were doing that. No one had any thought that a kid was going to get kidnapped, that he was going to buy drugs, that he was going to be assaulted on the way home. And are people just paranoid about this stuff happening? No, they're vigilant about it because there's more, as our society has progressed, shall we say, there's been more of those random acts because there's less community. When you don't have the community, you have more kind of random acts of crime that happen. So people want to be able to live in a safe environment for their kids with like good schools where they don't have to worry about someone breaking into their house at night. That costs more money. You're buying safety in a lot of cases. So really what we want to do on the system-wide level is return things to the place where people can actually afford to have reasonable safety, where it doesn't require an extraordinary wealth in order to have security via neighbors, right? Rather than security, because you have like crazy security in your house, like burglar bars and like a fortress house, like what they have to do in some places in South Africa, right? You can make your house secure with like barbed wire fences, but that's not what most people want. Most people want their house secure because none of their neighbors are criminals, and you have to pay more to get that. So thinking about the systemic stuff, right? The solutions are not to how do we make it like the 1990s, but how do we make the good parts of the 1990s? How do we help us have closer things to those? How do we have more affordable housing without the crime? That's really the bigger questions that you want to have there. How do we have good social interactions without kind of the decay that we have now, especially say the dating market. The dating market's gotten really bad. So, I'm always willing to entertain what solutions people have thought of for like the modern social interaction problems that we have. People are glued to their phones. People use their phones for internet dating, and that I think has been disastrous. There's been a lot of issues that have been the result of our integration with technology. So is there a solution that comes out of that technology? Do we restrict the technology in different ways? Or is it something that's like there'll be a technological solution? Or is it just like a technology we have to adapt to? Like just how people had to learn how to drive cars safely when cars came out. Maybe people have to really learn how to deal with like social media and internet dating and things. Like it might be a collective cultural learning experience that needs to happen. And then on the other side of that, then you can have a return closer to like what we would consider normalcy, if that makes any sense. We can't return to the religious attitudes of the 1980s or 90s, but we can pursue our own faiths, number one, and number two, we can actually help our communities to be more that way as well. So the closer things are to you, the more that you can help them, and that in turn will eventually affect those systemic levels that we're talking about. So my big point here is that if you properly contextualize nostalgia, it can be very useful for decision making, for helping you to pursue things. I've had Brian Niemeyer on the show lots of times, and I know he watches the videos. He wrote a book called Don't Give Money to People Who Hate You. And like the first reason you don't give money to people that hate you is for your own benefit. And that frees you up to look for other things that you like, right? You don't have to be chained to media that you have an emotional attachment to because Monday through Friday were bad and Saturday was good, and therefore the things that you did on Saturday were good, and you are attached to those things. Let's recontextualize that. You were really, really grateful for great entertainment on Saturdays because Monday through Friday were really boring. So the proper solution would be let's make your life less boring, and you're going to have less need for that attachment. And also, you don't have to be that attached to that. Rather, you can remember fondly that great entertainment gives you a relief from difficult times. And when you have a difficult time, you can go to that. I know people that are suffering from grief. It's often great to stop and go watch TV. I actually talked about this in the Keys to Prolific Creativity book. After my daughter was born, she required a lot of intensive care, and she had like basically baby reflux, where if she was like horizontal, she would get sick and cry because she'd get heartburn. So you had to kind of hold her. We had to hold her basically 24/7 for her first few weeks of life till this like little weak esophageal sphincter thing like resolved, and she got better and got over it. I was actually grateful for that time because that time it forced me to slow down, not work, consume media, to watch shows, which I don't usually get to do, and like play games. And so the joy of being able to watch something is because I just never really take the time to watch that. And because my life is so full of cool stuff that I like anyway, I often don't feel the need to seek out entertainment to relieve boredom or anything like that. Instead, my life is so full of things that I'm interested in. I have to stop and remember that it's good for me to occasionally watch a movie or read books. I read books all the time, but so that's probably not a good example. Maybe to like watch a movie or play a game, and that these things are good and they entertain me and they inspire me and they keep the creative juices flowing. So anyway, that's a good way to think about a lot of that stuff. You don't have to be a prisoner to old media just because it was great when you were a kid. There are new experiences that you can find that will help you to feel the way that you felt. And on the flip side, maybe you don't need to feel the way that you felt when you're young because your overall life has improved. You don't need the relief of Luke Skywalker because you are better with yourself and your life is better and it's more complete as a result. All those things. So anyway, those are all my points there. This has gone on for 20 minutes. Thank you for listening. Afterglow Generation Y. If you're watching far in the future, you can buy it. I'm going to have it free June 15th through 18th. So early part of this week as part of Hobbiton Birthday, where I give away some free stuff. So check it out. It's got a lot of good stories. And there's a lot of these stories are actually free on YouTube, audiobook versions of them that you can probably find. So anyway, I'll talk to you all next time. Leave me your thoughts down below in the comments section and have a great, great day. I really appreciate you watching.